Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy holidays to all. We have a very special event. I'm so pleased to introduce President-elect of the Board of Trustees, Amy Falls.
Thank you, Jim, head of school 15.5, and welcome to all of you. I am so thrilled to be here after a global search meeting hundreds of people. I and the search committee were thrilled to meet our next head of school, Dr. Raynard Kington, who represents everything that we represent: excellence, compassion, passion for the world, non-sibi. He is everything that we are, and we are thrilled to have him and his husband, Peter, and his two boys, Basil and Emerson, joining our community. So let's give a big blue welcome.
Wow. Thank you. This is wild. Thank you. So you can rest assured that I don't think I'll get that type of welcome every time I come to a podium here. I wish all of you could see what I see, and in fact, I'm taking a photo so that you'll be able to see, and then we'll post what I see. So first, let me say that I'm so grateful to the search committee and the board of directors for giving me an opportunity to become part of Phillips Academy. My guess is that everyone in this room remembers when they first became part of this extraordinary place and of the awareness they had of the deep responsibilities and privileges that come with joining such a remarkable community. I know that that is exactly what I've been thinking about since the moment when I was offered a chance to leave this incredible place. As many of you know by now, I haven't had the typical career path. I've had a rather unusual pathway to this new position. And that path of sort of way leading on to way is a big part of who I am and how I work. At no part of my education could I have predicted this moment. And in all honesty, I don't think that I would have wanted to predict this moment. I say that because the unforeseen, meandering, and unexpected opportunities that make up the always unknowable future is what has made my life and what makes all lives interesting. One of my favorite authors is the late Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe. In his powerful essay entitled The Education of a British Protected Child, Achebe writes of the very restricted, exclusively British-informed education that he received in the colonial schools of Nigeria. His teachers were almost entirely all white, male, Cambridge and Oxford educated teachers. And their curricula excluded almost anything that was grounded in or even respectful of Achebe's own culture. And yet somehow that education, imperfect and narrow as it was, still managed to open his mind. He writes, "What I have suggested in this rambling essay is the potency of the unpredictable in human affairs." I love that phrase, the potency of the unpredictable in human affairs. And I love it mainly because my entire career has been absolutely unpredictable. But that's the wonderful consequence of having a great education. Once you open a mind, it might go anywhere if given an opportunity. Once you teach an individual to explore the world offers the individual previously unimaginable pathways. And I know that is precisely the type of education that Andover provides, and it's one of the reasons why I found this position so appealing. So today seems like a perfect occasion to take a moment and acknowledge a few of the people who have opened my mind, because I clearly did not get here without help and good fortune. So I'll begin with my late parents, Dr. and Mrs. Garfield Douglas Kington, who were remarkable and unusual people in so many ways. It would be impossible to acknowledge every gift that they gave me. But one of the greatest gifts they gave me was an unshakable belief that I could choose my own path, that I was not restricted in doing what they did or what others around me did, that the world beyond what I knew was worth discovering, worth venturing into with enthusiasm and curiosity. Now, I have no doubt that they sometimes had moments in which they questioned the wisdom of giving me such license, but I'd like to believe that that was relatively infrequent. Next, I want to acknowledge my spouse, Dr. Peter Daniolos, without whose love and support I would not be here now, and our two wonderful sons, Emerson and Basile, who are the center of our lives and of whom we are so proud. I'm still learning to give them the freedom that my own parents gave me. I would also like to thank my parents-in-law, the late Dr. Demetrius Daniolos and Mrs. Vasiliki Daniolos, who has been so supportive of our family, helping us, guiding us, and occasionally even gently correcting us as we forged a new pathway with our family. There are so many others to thank as well, including teachers at my high school, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, a wonderful institution in Baltimore, but I will use another venue to do that. Suffice it to say, I'm so grateful for all of those who have supported our family and who have guided me in my career. Now, I've been thinking a lot about what I could say today, briefly, to communicate both who I am as a leader and to introduce you to the type of leadership I hope to bring to this community. And for some reason, as I ruminated on this, my mind came to a photograph that I have had in my office since I had my first cubicle as a fellow at Penn. So let me tell you how I first saw this photograph. When I was growing up, every year or so, my entire family, my parents and 5 kids, would load into the station wagon and drive from Baltimore to my maternal grandparents' home in a small community in northeast Texas. My mother grew up in this community that was founded by freed slaves after the Civil War. My grandparents were also remarkable people. Both of them were the children of slaves who went on to become the first in their respective families to go to college, and they became school teachers. They taught for years in the small, rural, segregated schools in Texas, and later took over a family farm that had been part of the very same plantation where many of my family were enslaved, and I actually inherited part of that land that's now been in the family for 5 generations since the Civil War. Now, my grandmother kept her photographs, some in albums, some just tied together with loose string, in a burlap sack in a closet. And on one of those hot August afternoons when we had to sort of actually find a way to fill our time without devices or even television, my younger brother and a couple of cousins and I pulled out that huge sack and dumped it in the floor and picked our way through these old photos. I remember being completely enthralled by these photos, many of people who had died long before I was born. And many years later, I obtained copies of several of these photos, and I put them together in a frame for my office. Now, one photo in particular always caught my attention, initially because I didn't particularly like it. It was this photo. This is a photo that is of my maternal grandmother's maternal grandmother, my great-great-grandmother. She was born a slave, and we understand that she had at least one child fathered by the slave master during slavery. This was my grandmother's mother. Now, after the Civil War, my great-great-grandmother married a widower with several children, all of whom she raised. And this photo is of her and her husband and her stepchildren. And it was taken by one of these itinerant photographers who would go through the South and photograph families in the late 1800s. Like other photos I have from this period, this photo was taken outside as a family group with the 2 parents seated and 3 children standing behind them. And one of the reasons I initially did not like this photo was that everyone in it looks rather grim. One of the reasons I was attracted to it was also the fact that they looked so grim in a particular way. This was a convention of the time. People didn't expect to smile in these visual documents of their existence. Photographers didn't ask people to say cheese. This particular image is one of the earlier photos of this family, and as such, the family is clearly not well off. The younger boy is wearing short pants and a jacket and a cap, but no shoes or socks. His father's pants are neatly patched at the knees. In later photos of the family has clearly moved up. The men all wear suits and hats, and the women wear nice dresses, but this was before all of that. Now, over time, I've studied this photo, and I noticed things that I didn't notice when I first saw it. First, I noticed the charming, casual, familiar way that the young boy leans on his mother's shoulder, and the hand of the other son is on her other shoulder. It's hard to stage gestures like that of everyday affection. There were also, though, two items in the photo that I later noticed which have completely changed how I see this photo and the people in it, and have made this now one of my very favorite family photos. First, the daughter is holding a book. Now, a book was often included in photos of this era to signal that at least some of the family were literate. No small thing in the aftermath of slavery in Texas, where it was against the law to teach slaves to read. This family and this community actually deeply valued education. If you look closely, though, you'll see that the photo has captured the book as it is opening. The pages are a blur, they're fluttering open. It's as if the book is alive, as if knowledge is sort of flowing outside of the book. Now, it took even longer for me to pay attention to the second item of interest. If you look closely, my great-great-grandmother is holding in her left hand a small bunch of flowers. I imagine her being called out of her cabin in a rush to take this photo, and her noticing wild flowers by the side of her stairs, and stopping those few seconds to pinch off a sprig or two to hold in her hand. That animated book and that small bunch of flowers now mean everything to me. They symbolize that the family survived the horror of that brutal and dehumanizing system of oppression, a system fueled by greed. That they survived that system of enslavement with their minds and their hearts intact. But this was also a time of extraordinary uncertainty. And it was when this photo was taken that a new system of racial oppression was evolving. And yet my ancestors had the ability to both prepare for the future by embracing knowledge and to live in the blessing of the moment, to appreciate the beauty in their everyday lives. So I plan to keep this photo in my office here, as I've kept it in all of my offices. And I want it to remind me of all that I see in it now. At the most general level, it will remind me that first assessments can be wrong, that careful study and attention often bring to light aspects of things that are easy to miss with that first quick scan. But even more importantly, I want to be reminded of what is symbolized by that book and those flowers. The power of knowledge, the power of an active, engaged knowledge that can be hard and painful as often as it is reassuring and hopeful. And the need to balance that knowledge with an appreciation of the mystery of the beauty in the human experience, even in the midst of difficulty and challenge, whether that beauty is a small bunch of Texas wildflowers or the music that you're about to hear today. I hope that my time here will be infused with those thoughts, and that all of you will help me in shaping the future of everyone who's a part of this incredible community, especially our students, most importantly, as well as the inspiring faculty and dedicated staff and extraordinary alumni who are all part of this storied and special institution. So thank you again for the incredible welcome you've given to me and my family. We are looking so forward to joining you here. Thank you.